recording. You hit the... I can get it. There we go. All right, Grandpa.
Hi there, Danny.
What is your name?
Robert J. Banks.
And can you spell your last name?
Banks.
What was your rank in the military?
PFC.
Okay. Will you say, my name is Robert J. Banks, and then say your military rank? Or should the branch of the military, or?
You'd say you're ranking in the Army or something like that, probably?
Okay, yeah, say I was a...
PFC in the Army.
United States Army.
Yeah.
Right now?
Yep.
I was a PFC in the United States Army, and my name is Robert J. Banks.
All right, let's start with your name this time, and then say...
Oh, okay. My name is Robert J. Banks, and I was a private first class in the United States Army.
Okay. And so if I ask you a question, if I say what color is your shirt, I want you to rephrase the question in your answer. So if I say what color is your shirt, say my shirt is yellow.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Why did you join the Army?
I didn't join, and I was drafted.
Oh, okay. Okay, can you just explain that you were drafted then? And
Yes, I was going to high school, and I graduated from high school. And when I graduated from high school, I graduated right into the U.S. Army.
And tell me about what happened. Where did you start in the military?
I went to Battle Creek to Fort Custer and was there for probably a week. And then from there, I was put on a train and traveled to Macon, Georgia, to Fort Wheeler.
Okay. Can I have that sheet?
Mm-hmm.
Sweet music.
Tell me about graduating high school again.
I graduated. I graduated from high school in 1943 in June, and went from there to the Army, U.S. Army.
And tell me the story from graduating high school to going in the Army and your what is it?
Basic training.
Basic training.
Mm-hmm.
I graduated from high school in 1943, and went right from graduation into the service, into the United States Army. And I went from there I was only there a week, but I went from there to Macon, Georgia, to Camp Wheeler, where I took my basic training. And I was there for 16 weeks in basic training. And from there, I came home for a week or two. And from there, I went to camp in Maryland, Fort Meade, Maryland, and was there for probably a week or two, and then I went to Camp Shanks, New York from there, which is a state where you jump off for Europe. And when I was there, I got to go into New York every day if I wanted to, but I had to. It was all at night, never during the day. And we took a ferry from Camp Shanks to New York, and then from there we were shipped overseas. And I was on the ship that I went overseas on was the Isle de France, which is one of the biggest ships was at that time in the world. And they had us stacked 7 high in the hold of that ship when we went overseas, and it took 8 days to go, which it takes a lot less now. And on the way over, I was seasick for the whole 7 days. And if one man at the top got sick, the rest of them from the top to the bottom got sick. And they made us stay in that hold, which had an old oily smell from the motors. And we could only go up on deck once a day for a boat drill. And that was the only time we got on deck in that 7 days. And that was one reason we were sick. And another reason is the ship was manned by French people. And their cooking wasn't its best. The oatmeal was so thick and hard. When it came up, it was worse yet. And from there, I went to a camp in England, which was a camp where a pool where everybody was. And we stayed there. I was there probably 8 to 10 days. And they needed so many people to go to the Supreme Headquarters to set that all up and everything else in England. So I was the 8th man on the list. And I think God had his hand on me at that time, or even before, because to be picked, because the rest of the fellows that I was with were on D-Day. They went in and there was a lot of them that aren't around. At that time they weren't around, shortly after. But then when I got to, it was near, well, it was Teddington, Lower Teddington in England. It was a little town outside, a little place outside of London. And we were in tents and lived in tents all while we were there and setting up the headquarters. And then at night, when you would be sleeping, the sirens would go off and the German bombers would be coming over. And we'd come back and go to bed and there'd be shrapnel in our beds. The tents would have holes in them from the shrapnel. And from there, well, there was a lot of things happened while I was in England. The D-Day hadn't come up yet. And the place where I was living after I got out of the tent was in a house at 40 Lower Teddington. It was right on the Thames River. And it was a big stone house with vines all over it. And let's see. It's hard to remember everything.
Wait 1 second, because we have a cat in the room, and that's going to be a problem.
Okay, you're going to go in here and see them. You're going to go see Mama. Go that way. Katie, of course you won't go that way now. Huh? Come on. Come on, Katie. Of course she doesn't want to be in there.
I can just remember where I was at.
Ready? Okay, I want to go back to the boat. Well, let's talk about New York. when you guys went to downtown at night, what did you guys do?
Oh, we just wandered around town into the bars and the different places. And I was there on New Year's Eve too, which was quite a thing. There was an awful big crowd there on New Year's Eve, with all the soldiers and sailors and everybody, the civilians, and it was quite a week while I was there.
And then on the boat, you said every 8th man was picked.
No, that was in the depot in England.
In England?
Yeah.
Okay.
But on the ship, we were piled 7 high.
Okay.
And when the top man got sick, we all got sick. And I was sick for 7 days.
Mom, you're gonna have to. That chair is.
Oh, that's making noise?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Grab another chair. We're gonna be here a while.
It won't squeak, huh?
I got the wiggly one, I'm just not moving.
So at the depot, what was every 8th man picked for?
Well, they picked every 8th man on the list. Now, like 8, 16, and that way. There was probably several thousand there, but they didn't need that many,
Picked for what, though? What were you picked for?
It was called a service battalion that took care of and set up the headquarters and everything like that.
And the rest of the men, so you guys were picked to stay and set up and then the rest of the men were shipped off.
Yeah, they were shipped off to different outfits that, that were over there. Like I'm trying to think of the different ones that went in on D-Day.
So what did they do to pick? Did they put you guys in lines, or
No,
they just took the list and?
They just took the list and hit whatever one they came.
Is that the air conditioning?
No,
The fridge?
must refrigerator.
Oh, fridge.
How long does that stay on?
Boy, I couldn't tell you. Probably a few minutes.
Stop this.
Yeah, that was called the replacement depot, right? Is
Yeah,
that what they called
yeah.
it when you
Repo
got into
depot.
England? Yeah.
They called it a repo depot.
So soups that were going to come in and they'd reform the battalions or something then?
No,
Or now were you part
when
of
they
the
were there, the people that were there, except for the 8 like
Yeah.
I was, they all were shipped out into different companies and different
companies. They would
yeah,
probably call them.
different
Okay.
companies.
Now you were part of the 118th, were you?
Yeah, we were as under the.
When you first went in, that's what you were called, the 118th, or was
No,
that?
it was the 118th when we we're setting up the
for
battalion.
the Supreme Headquarters.
Yeah,
Can I unplug your fridge? Is that?
you'd have to pull it out.
Oh, really?
Or what? Is there a switch to turn them off?
I don't know, you just have to wait again.
If you change the temp thing, that would make it
Are
shut
you
off.
talking about the furnace now, or?
No, the refrigerator's on.
Where's the temp thing?
It's in the other part, to the back.
Remember where it is now.
Yeah. Okay, it is at 6. Is one the freezer?
Yeah, one's a freezer and one's a refrigerator.
So E is cold, so it's a little over B.
There it is.
One was at 6 and one was a little over B.
You didn't go to the Teddington place until you were picked for the Supreme headquarters, right?
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right.
He said it that way, I think.
Oh, did he? I
Mhm.
didn't get that.
It says Glasgow on my sheet. Glasgow.
Well, we came
Oh, you
into
landed?
Glasgow.
Okay.
We landed in Glasgow.
Okay. So can you start from there? Talk about landing.
Well, when we came into Glasgow on the boat, it was beautiful to see the land anyway, after being sick for 7 days. But it was just like a checkerboard. Green and brown and then another green and brown, and it was really pretty. And then they took us off the boat and put us on a train. And when we came in to go on the train, the English were there and had coffee for us and everything. So we had a cup of coffee before we got on the train. And then from the train we went to this place near London where we were camped in the tents to set up the Supreme headquarters. And while we were there, we did a lot of different things, and then they wanted somebody to this house where these generals were living at 40 Lower Teddington. They wanted somebody to come in there and take charge of the place and be there with English help to make sure everything got done for these generals and all that. So I was there for, well, till shortly after the D-Day. And I just was around to watch the people and everything, and they had it was right on the Thames. It was a beautiful spot. They had a boathouse with 2 boats in that we could go up and down the Thames River. And it was good duty there. And I enjoyed it very much because of the scenery and everything around. And then just before D-Day, on the night before, there was a general that was staying in our house. It was a intelligence man, and he asked if I would sit up all night and sit at the phone and take the call that D-Day was on. And so I did. I sat up all night, waited for the call. It was just about morning when it happened. And I called him, got him up. He got dressed and took off for the jump off where they were taking off for France. And then he'd come back from when he'd go over there. He'd come back and tell us what was going on. I don't know whether he should have told us all that or not, but he trusted us, I guess, because he told us everything that was going on over there, where they were, and where Patent was when he got on to the land. Well, he came up from another way, so he would tell us where he was and where he was going, and all about him.
So what did you do that night waiting for?
I just sat and drank coffee to keep awake.
And what did D-Day mean to you?
To me, it meant that we were going to get into something that was big. It wasn't going to be any easy task. and it wasn't. There was a lot of men lost their lives that day. Oh, quit it.
Did you have any friends that you worked with that you remember?
Yes, I had one fellow especially that was in basic training with me, and we got acquainted. My wife met him when she came down. We weren't married at the time, but she came down with my mother, and she met him, and his name was Tanner. And when I got up into Germany, with the headquarters there, setting it up, it was in Frankfurt, Germany. Why, one night I was outside and this guy come walking along. And it was Tanner. And so we talked and went for a walk, and he had been wounded twice and went back again to fight. And when I first met him, he was the quietest, most gentle guy you could ever meet. And when I met him up in Germany, he was practically a crazy man. We went for a walk, and we're walking along, and there was a police dog come up and started growling and coming after us. And he pulled out a set of brass knuckles and hit that dog with those brass knuckles. He wasn't right. He had lost everything he had before he went in. He'd lost his wife and everything, and it just made him altogether different fellow than he was.
From after D-Day, then you started moving around. Can you tell me about that?
Well, after D-Day, there was one group that went ahead and set up a headquarters in Reims, France. And after they had set up their headquarters, as the war went on, when they got to Germany and were in Germany, and it had got into Berlin and all those places, we leapfrogged the other group and set up a headquarters in the IG Farben building in Frankfurt, Germany. And we had to get the building ready for all the people that were coming in, the generals and everybody. And it was quite a chore getting that building ready because it'd been hit with gunfire and things like that. But we finally got it all cleaned up and ready to go. And they all moved in.
What did you have to do to clean up?
Well, like clean up all the rubble and stuff out of it. And there was broken windows and stuff like that. They had to be fixed. And the elevators in it had to be gotten fixed so they could be used. It had elevators that weren't the regular elevator, like the doors close on you, and they were elevators that as they come by, you jumped in and went up where you wanted to get to and jumped back off. And they were continually moving, one each way.
How long did you stay at a headquarters that you set up?
Shortly, after we got the IG Farben building all set up, and everything was ready. And we were in camp for a while, or in a barracks. And then they asked if anybody would go to a house outside of Berlin that they were going to put some generals in. And if we would take it over and go in, and we would have German help and live in the house and make sure everything was done for these generals and everything like that. And they had a wine cellar down there with stuff in it that was way back in the 20s, wine and everything else. And it was a big house, and a German manufacturer had owned the house. And while we were there, there was an Air Corps man that had a German Shepherd dog he wanted to bring back to the United States. So they wanted somebody to take care of that dog and keep it for him until he could get it to the United States. So they brought it to the house, and we, along with everything else, we had this dog to take care of. And the dog was a smart dog. He could open doors, and everything. And he got out once, and he headed right for the airport where his master was. And they got him there and got him back to us. But of course, we caught it for letting the dog out, but we didn't let him out. He let himself out, and it was good duty there too.
What was so you worked with Germans then too, setting up?
Yeah.
What was that like? How did people treat the Germans?
Well, there was a lot of Germans didn't go along with Hitler. They were just common everyday people, and they would do anything to have something to do and make a little money, because everything around them was all bombed up. Some of them didn't have homes and no place to stay. So they would have these jobs and have a place to stay too. And at one time I had duty. There was in a coal yard, and I had this was in France. It was in France that I had this. That they had me go to a coal yard and run and supervise trucks, and I had 4 Russian DPs that were doing the work, and I had a gun and sit on the truck and go along with them wherever they had to deliver the coal or anything like that, like hotels in Paris and different things. And there was one hotel we went to that Tommy Dorsey's band was staying there. And at the time, it was right at the time where he was killed in the airplane crash.
Glenn Miller? It was Glenn Miller, right?
Yeah.
Okay, you said Tommy Dorsey.
Did I?
Yeah.
I met Glenn Miller.
Okay, can you start from the beginning, the hotel? Talk about the hotel.
We went to this hotel with coal and delivered it. And it was a place where Glenn Miller's.
Will you get him some water?
Glenn Miller Band. Remember, in the mood.
Glenn Miller Band. Don't get me one of those glasses. Get me one of the flat ones.
Okay.
I spill the others.
Yeah. Okay.
it's hard to remember everything right in sequence
Yeah.
too.
You did go to Paris before you went to Germany, didn't you?
Right.
Yeah,
And remember when you talk again too of who you saw,
Vern Alcott.
and then also when you were at the Faber building, you saw Whitcomb, Bob Whitcomb.
That was when I was on the train
Well,
when I
someplace.
saw Whitcomb.
Okay. Whoops. I don't have to give that to him. What train was that you saw him on?
I was on train 100 and he came in.
Oh, that was when you were on Eisenhower's
He was an MP.
train?
Yeah.
Oh.
He was an MP.
Grandpa, can you look forward at where it was sitting? Okay, let's talk about the coal train then.
Coal train?
Or, yeah, you were delivering coal? Was
Yeah.
that- okay.
By truck.
Okay, truck.
Okay. But I wasn't doing the coal digging. I was doing supervising. And I had these 4 DPs that worked for me that were Russian. And they were people that didn't want to go back to Russia. And I think probably most of them stayed right in France after the war and lived there. But while delivering coal to this hotel in Paris, Glenn Miller's band was there.
All right, let's
And-
say that again. While you were delivering coal.
While we were delivering coal at a hotel in Paris, it was a place where Glenn Miller's band was staying. And it was right at the time when he was killed in an airplane crash. And the band was not in too good a mood or condition or whatever you want to say at the time when we saw them.
Where did you see them?
At the hotel. They were in the hotel.
Were they at the lobby or?
Yeah.
Can you just talk about that time that you saw the band?
Well, it wasn't for long that I saw them. It was just for a little time, a few minutes or so, that as we were going in with the coal, they were delivering it. Why, we saw them in the lobby. There was probably 6 or 8 of them. And they were all sitting and talking about what had happened and to their boss and leader.
What did you sense that they were feeling?
Very sad. They were very sad about the whole thing.
What Versailles, France? What happened there with hauling supplies?
Versailles?
Yeah, Versailles.
Oh, you're hitting my memory. Trying to think of Versailles.
There were Russian DPs and German prisoners.
Maybe that was more Paris.
Was it?
Yeah, that was more Paris than Versailles, maybe, huh?
Versailles is in France, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were the German
That was
prisoners?
one of the headquarters to Versailles.
Did you help set that one up, or
Yeah.
That's another.
Yeah. No, we helped set that one up. And I was trying to think of where in Versailles that was. Boy.
Looks like you were there for a while, between August of 1944 and May of 1945. Do you remember anything about German prisoners?
Yes. We had German prisoners. Oh. Oh, on the train.
What train?
Train A100, which was Eisenhower's train. We had all German help on that. We had a German engineer that was the man that ran the whole show when it come to the train. And I probably should tell you how we got the train. When we got there in Germany, we went to a train yard, I guess you would call it, where they kept all the trains and everything that they went out from. There was a turntable type thing. And when we went in there, there was these German men that were going to be their engineers. There was a couple of American engineers that had worked with trains here in the United States, and then the rest of us. There was about 10 of us that were going to take care of the train and guard it and all this when we were on the road. And the train was made up of 10 cars of von Rippentrop's train, Hitler's train, Himmler's train, and Göring's. And it was 10 cars. And they had a diner car that was just, they were big cars. They weren't just little cars like little ones. They were big and long. And then they had sleeping quarters for us ahead of the dining car and sleeping quarters behind us for the officers and Eisenhower and whoever was on the train. And they had one of the cars that was off Hitler's train had a shortwave radio in it when we got it, that he could talk to submarines in the Atlantic Ocean if he wanted to. He could talk to anybody in the world, you might say, because it was that big and in that train. Of course, the Americans tore that all out. They took that out of there. And then they had an auto car that would hold a Jeep and Eisenhower's limousine in it, and it had a turntable in the train that they could turn and take it out the side, or they could take it out the back, whichever way they wanted to take it out. And it was, of course they had a kitchen car too on there where the cooking was done and all this. And we went out when we were stationed in Frankfurt, Germany, and we went out 3 times a month. Eisenhower would go to different places. He would go to Brussels, Belgium. He would go to Holland, The Hague, and he would go to, there was another place he went to too, usually. But I can't remember right this minute what it was. And we would, if he flew, this 10-car train would still have to follow him to wherever he went. So that if it stormed or something and they couldn't fly, we were there to bring him back. And we had to do that a few times. And of course, so a lot of times we'd take him to wherever he was going. If he decided he didn't want to fly, why, he'd go by train, which was probably more homey than flying on that plane, because he had his own place to sleep, his own bedroom, his own everything there on the train. And it was, well, I should tell you about when we first got the train. I forgot that. That when we first took the train out, they had 2 engines on it, 2 big steam engines on the front of it. And in Germany at that time, there was a lot of tracks that was blown up. And this must have been the only clear track there was, because they took the train and each car had a speedometer in it, up where you could see it. And they took that train at 100 miles an hour down those tracks. And all of us was just sitting on pins and needles wondering if it was going to hit a spot where the tracks weren't any good. And at 100 miles an hour, you might as well forget it. But everything went all right with that. And
So 1 second for this plane to pass. It's just gonna circle.
You need a drink again?
yeah, maybe better. I can reach it.
When you first got the train too, is that when you took off artifacts? That there were, things,
No,
your souvenirs?
Yeah, that was at the time I got them, yes.
When they first got the train.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah, it was stuff that was left in the cars and things like that.
How did you guys get the trains?
How did we get it?
Yeah.
Well, the Army had taken over this train depot and everything, and they needed the train for Eisenhower. So it was after they had taken it over, well, then they had the engineers and us come in and set up the train as we wanted it, what cars we wanted and everything.
Did you have any interactions with Eisenhower?
Yes. In the dining car, it was separated. One side was officers, the other side was enlisted men. And a lot of times, when he ate in the car, a lot of times after he'd get done, he'd come in and sit and talk to us. So I met him personally. And to me, he was a wonderful man. And I was happy when he ran for president. And he was a good president.
What was he like? What did you guys talk about?
We just general, where you were from. He'd ask us where we were from and how we got where we were. And he would talk about the war a little bit, not a lot. He wouldn't say too much about that. It would be just general talk. Just like two fellas getting together and having a conversation.
What do you think made him a good general?
Well, he'd been to West Point, and I think West Point teaches him pretty good on tactics and everything. And he had a personality that he could work with men like he did with the English and everybody in France and every place. Like the one fellow I know that was in Supreme Headquarters was a British actor. The name doesn't come to me right this present writing.
You can talk to him.
Oh, David Niven?
David Niven was
Can you,
his name.
all right, can you say that sentence with his name?
There was one English general that was under Eisenhower. There was David Niven. There was a movie star, and he was a big high up in the English army. And he was in Supreme Headquarters, and I never met him, but I saw him. And he always had his swagger stick whenever he went any places, under his arm or something. And it was interesting to see people like that. Probably I'll never see anybody that type of person again.
Eisenhower got along with him?
Yes, he had no trouble. The only one he had any problems with was Patton, who was a cowboy that with pearl-handled 6-guns on his hip, and he was a dedicated man, and his dedication made him a little overbearing. But he was a good general, and he did a lot of good, a lot of, what do I want to say? He knew what he was doing when he went into a place. He knew what he could do and how he could do it, and everything.
And that's Patton?
That was George W. Patton.
What's up, Mom?
Oh, I wanted to bring up you talked about a British general. Was that Montgomery or was that David Niven?
Montgomery
Okay.
was another English general.
Was David Niven a general also?
Yeah.
Or I know he was an actor, but I didn't know if he was also a general.
Yeah, he was also a general. He was high up in
okay. And then George Montgomery is
Yeah,
someone.
George Montgomery was another general.
And then Beadle Smith, who was...
He was American.
Yeah,
he was
American.
Eisenhower's aide.
Chief of staff or something.
Yeah, Eisenhower's aide, which would put him in the chief of staff category.
Did the people you worked with respect Eisenhower?
Yes, everybody did. Everybody respected him, and anybody that knew him personally, they all had a good feeling about him. You know, they weren't critical of anything he did or said that I ever heard.
Did you ever meet Patton?
Yes. I met Patton the first time. He had been at a army hospital, and there was a young fellow in there that was crying and taken on because he was scared. And Patton slapped him. Well, when Eisenhower heard about it, he called Patton in and raked him over the coals and chewed him out, but good and proper. Well, when he got done with that, why, we had to take him back to Munich on the train. And he was just riled up and mad and everything else, you know, just taken on. And one of the fellows, said he wanted a drink. So one of the fellows went and got some whiskey in a glass and took it into him. And the fellow was telling me later about this, that when he started to pour the whiskey in the glass for him, Patton says, "I find I get more, son, if I pour it myself." So he filled the glass right up and drank it. And we were glad to get rid of him when we got him back to Munich.
Now, what about, it says something here about Patton's body. What is that?
Yeah. Well, Patton was killed. I can't remember the dates or anything like that. But he got killed in an auto accident in Germany. His body, they were going to bury him in Brussels, near Brussels, in Belgium. I can't remember just the place it was they were going to bury him. It's where a lot of Americans are buried over there. And they brought his body and put it on the train. And we had to take it to where he was going. And we had his wife and son on the train. I met her personally on the train when we were going. And we got to wherever we were going. And they took the body off. And all the way there, we were all sympathetic, let's say, to his wife and son. And his son was altogether different than what he was. And his wife was a little meek woman. You could see his attitude was, I don't know whether it was putting her down or what, but he was the master. And you could tell it by her, the way she acted and felt.
Do you remember anything about a cow?
Yes.
General Eisenhower to
Yeah.
the Russian consul?
Yeah. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Eisenhower had given a cow to a Russian general. And we had to build a stall in our autocar to take that cow from Frankfurt, Germany, to wherever this general was in Berlin. And we had nice whole milk all the time we were going. We'd milk the cow and have our own milk, fresh, right from the cow. And it took us probably a few hours to take that cow up there and unload it and then come back to Frankfurt.
How long were you on the train?
I was on the train somewhere around 10 to 12 months, somewhere's in there. And that was also good duty. You had top food, and the train was called A100. And it was, whenever they went to where they got their supplies, they got the best food, the best steaks, the best everything. So I ate good while I was there. And that's when I was on the train, there was another thing that happened, that every week there was a house where some generals were living, and we had to go out there and show them movies. we'd get movies from, different ones that was out at that time, and go out there and show them these movies. Well, I got to meet quite a few of those generals too, because they were, after the movie, where they'd talk to us and everything. And it was interesting to hear some of their stories. I can't tell you any of the stories, but
Now, did you meet Eisenhower's wife?
no, I never met her.
Oh, so that was Patton's wife. That.
Yeah, Patton and her son.
You might want to say that during your time over there, you
Oh.
ended up meeting two local people,
Yes.
and where you met them. Say their name and where you met them.
When I was in England, I went to the Red Cross, where we all went to get cigarettes and coffee and donuts and like that. And I walked in and was going up to get some coffee, and there was another fellow standing right there. And I looked at him, he looked at me, and it was Vern Alcott from Allegan here. He lives right over here in the trailer park. And we talked and reminisced. He used to live right next to my cousin here in Allegan. And we reminisced about Allegan and everything for about 2 hours, I think it was, that we sat and talked. And then in Frankfurt, Germany, in the train station where I was, well, one day there were some MPs come in. They were looking for somebody, I don't know who or what. And one of them, I looked at him, he looked at me, and it was Bob Whitcomb, the sheriff of Allegan County down here for a few years. And I saw him, he was an MP in Germany.
So, what did you feel like? What was it like seeing people from home?
Well, it was kind of, I was joyful about the whole thing, because I hadn't seen anybody from around my hometown or anything else in probably, well, at the first one wasn't too long. It was only probably 6 months after I'd left the country. But Whitcomb, I didn't see him until probably I'd been over there for probably a year and a half, so I really enjoyed seeing him.
Were you surprised?
Oh yes, I was surprised to see anybody over there that I knew, because look at how many thousands of men there was from the U.S. that were over there.
What about the Liberty ship?
That was when I came home. I was on a Liberty ship that went. They traveled all the way down to the Azores and back up to New York. And it was a small ship. I didn't get sick because I was on deck more. I could get out on deck anytime I wanted to. In fact, I pretty near lived on the deck. I only went down into the hold when I was going to bed to sleep. And that was a nice voyage coming home. And it was nice until I saw the Statue of Liberty. Then I couldn't stop myself from crying. Because it's been over 2 years since I'd even seen the United States. And it was just something that you can't describe the feeling that you have when you come home after it's so long. And I've known a lot of men had the same feeling.
And now you were released in March of 1946?
Yes, I went to a camp in Wisconsin. The name leaves me right now.
Camp McCoy?
Camp McCoy, Wisconsin, yes. That's where I was put out of the Army or let out of the Army or discharged or whatever you want to call it, and came home. I was there probably a week. And then I came home.
Did you consider staying in the Army?
I thought about going back because I could go right back to Germany where I was on the train, and I've stayed there because there was another general, I think it was Bradley, took over the train. And I could have went back and stayed down there and did the same thing I was doing. But the situation here, I got married, and everything involved and everything, nobody seemed to want me to go. So I didn't go back.
What was what was the scariest time in your 2 years overseas?
My 2 years overseas was in the train in the station, and I don't know what caused it, but all the people on the one platform they were all Germans, was coming towards our platform, and I heard a machine gun go off. And it was one of the guards. When we were in the station, we had other guards. All we had to do was just live. And they started shooting. And I thought, what's going on? Where are we? The war is over. But I don't know what the situation was. I can't remember. But all I remember was guns going off, and I felt a little scared of what was going to happen. Because when about 1,000 people come at you, you wonder if they're after you or who they're after.
Was this close to when you were about to go home?
It was shortly before.
Did you ever have to fire your weapon then?
No, I never did. When we were out on a trip, I had a submachine gun that I carried, along with a .45. And whenever the train stopped, I had to get off with that submachine gun and stand guard. And we never had any problems. One time, the engineers figured that the Germans were trying to hold us up from going to where we were going. And that's the only thing that ever happened on the train that was very, strange or scary. Now, I did mention in Paris one time, Hitler had Eisenhower had an office in a villa that he used, and German paratroopers come in dressed as Americans with American uniforms in, and they must have commandeered an American truck, and they tried to get into his head where his offices were, and
Oh, I'm gonna have to reset this. Sorry. Can you start that over again?
when we were in Paris, there was a time when the German paratroopers come in dressed as Americans with American guns, American uniforms, and they had commandeered an American truck, and they came in and were going to go into his offices there to kill him. And there was probably, I would say, 10 to 12 Americans. And they when I saw the truck after they got done, the truck was just riddled where they had killed all of these Germans that were trying to get in there.
How'd they find out that they were Germans? What?
Well, when they tried to get into they didn't have any passes or anything like that, you know, that they would get them in. And I don't know other than that, I don't know what would have.
Play it again. What was your fondest memory during your tour?
My fondest memory? Coming home. That was my fondest memory.
What was your favorite place in Europe?
Paris. With all its big cathedrals and
were you in London at all?
yes. That's where I met the fellow from Malagan, the one fellow, Vern Alcott, was in the Red Cross in London. And London had a lot of old things and everything to look at.
Was London torn apart by bombs and things?
Yes, it was.
Well, describe that.
The streets were filled with rubble. Most of them it was hard to drive down through or even walk down through because of the buildings they had been bombed. And of course Germans were coming over every night and bombing for quite a while there. And there was not so many people that didn't have even a room to stay in. Some of them were staying in parts of buildings that were still left standing, but otherwise it was really a mess. You get out in the country, it was all right. You get out of town, but in town it was just really bombed. In England at the time only had one plane left to get into the air. If Hitler would have came across the channel, he could have had them too.
In just one sentence, can you describe, just say that what London was like?
It was...
But make sure and say London.
London was a town that was old, and at one time it had a lot of real nice buildings that were old, and they weren't as modern as we were here. They had outside toilets in a lot of places. So did France. you'd see a little cubicle round thing about 10 foot around, 10 foot across, but round, and you'd walk in there and go to the bathroom and then back out, or else they had them along a wall. You'd see people going to the bathroom in a trough in that wall, along that wall.
Mom, is there anything else you think?
It just seems like have you actually brought out the name Supreme Headquarters Allied Expedition Force? I mean, that's considered, I mean, you have a patch of them, and that's what is that what your unit was assigned to them, right?
Yes, I was assigned to the Adjutant General's office, who we were attached to. And we were in a part of Supreme Headquarters, Allied Expeditionary Forces, which Eisenhower controlled the whole thing. He was the head honcho all during the war and directed everything that went on.
And what was your team a part of?
Our team was this service battalion, and then on the train and also in the homes when we went to those and took charge of them.
And what were your responsibilities on this team?
Just to be there and to make sure everything was done.
Can you say that start with our responsibilities? And then explain.
Our responsibility was to take care of the generals and make sure everything was done for them that they needed, even down to having their shoes shined and their pants pressed and their shirts pressed with a military crease. I don't know whether you've ever seen a military crease in a shirt, but it's got two creases in the back of the shirt that go down, and two that go down across the pockets. And they're ironed that way so that they stay and look sharp. I didn't do any of the ironing, I just saw to it that it was done.
What did you feel about being in the Army?
I felt fairly good with everything, and except from the first, because I was kind of worried about where I might be. But after I got into the Supreme Headquarters, then everything was better. Life was better, and I had a good lived a good life while I was on the train and in the Supreme Headquarters. It was a lot better than being out in the field and into the trenches and all this, which I had a lot of buddies that were.
Were you grateful?
I was grateful for being where I was, yes, because I had a better feeling about getting home.
Now, what was coming home like? What did you come home to?
I came home to my family and my girlfriend and we were engaged. We had got engaged while I was overseas. My dad bought the ring and gave it to her that I had asked him to get. And also I came home to a lot of the whole family, all of them, that I hadn't seen in a long time, which was fun and enjoyable to see them all.
You were sent a letter from Eisenhower that it was thanking you. You know,
Yeah.
maybe you want to talk about that.
Yeah.
Say that General Eisenhower sent you a letter when you got home in a picture.
After I got home from overseas, also, Eisenhower's secretary sent us each that were on the train a letter and a picture of him that was autographed, and a letter that he signed, thanking us for what we had done for him while we were on the train. And it was, I'd still have that picture and letter. And probably always will have, but I don't know who will get it after I've gone.
What about the dishes? Do you have the dishes?
When I was on the train, there was a lot of dishes and silverware and everything on Hitler's train.
I want to tell this story while you're holding it. Is that
Okay. Probably the spoon is tarnished.
do you have the picture too?
This
Let's
is
have them hold that first until. No.
That okay? So you can see me too?
Can you try the other side? Oh, no. Back. Man, I wish we had more light. Hold it up a little more. There we go. And okay, that's good. Thanks.
Yeah.
We're good. Yeah.
Oh, you got it?
Yep.
he has also a Hitler Youth armband, and then this. I don't know if you want to hold it in a way that it'll show.
Okay, you'll have to hold it up.
You could separate the cup and show it.
Hold it up over here. Yeah.
Can I stick in there?
Yeah.
Because you know, it's got the insignia.
Yeah, we want to make sure everyone sees the insignia.
Well, that's not it doesn't have a swastika on it, does it?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
He's on it. The bird is on it, I think.
Mm.
All right, ready? All right, explain what you have.
I have a egg cup and a dish that I got off Hitler's train. Here, the car that we had on the train, this was in it. And the spoon is a little tarnished right now, but it's got the swastika and emblem, Hitler's emblem on it. And
How did you get it?
it was on the train, and so that nobody else wanted a lot of the stuff that was there. They were just going to throw it away. So I picked up what I wanted to bring home. I could have got a whole set of dishes, but I didn't want to carry something like that and break it on the way home. But this stuff I wrapped up and in with my clothes and kept them safe till I got home.
Okay. Go ahead and set that in front of you because I want to take a close up of it.
And then this, I don't know if you got that on the train then too?
Yeah. And this was,
And someone said it was from Hitler's Youth
yeah,
Army, but I don't know.
I think it is. It's about Wunder, Grotten, Führer. And it's a armband that they wore.
Can you hold it back towards your face more? There we go. Okay, go ahead.
This is a armband that they used for their youth, and that I can't tell you what the German words are, but I know the one is Führer.
Let's do it one more time. Hold on.
Okay.
Okay, what is that?
This is an armband that they used. It was for the Führer youth, or the German youth. And I don't know all the German words, but the one I know is Führer. And the German youth were people that we had to watch very closely because they were out to kill anybody they could kill as Americans. And they were dedicated to Hitler.
Okay. Now I'm going to take some close-ups of that stuff. I don't
You don't
want
want
to
to?
do each. No,
Okay.
I'll get pictures of those.
Okay.
I got a letter of what I was, or where I, boy, I can't remember what it says. It's in my dresser. Or did I get out the letters and stuff out of my dresser?
You didn't that I know of, but this is my stuff.
Oh,
What are you talking about?
and I think it's,
Alright, let's hold that.
there's a picture of me on a V-mail in my dresser drawer.
Mm.
I think it's the
Can you pick that stuff up again?
second or third drawer.
Okay. And then this. Let's have it face the other way a little more so we can get the sunlight out. Yeah. Okay.
Did you want with the picture or not?
No.
Oh,
Okay.
Tattoo is in one of those drawers, the back. I think it's a sock drawer.
All right, can you take it off and do that
Where's your
again?
hat?
Your VFW hat?
It's in the top drawer of my dresser on the far side under some stuff. That letter I got too is in one of those drawers at the back. I think it's a sock drawer. On the bottom there's a picture of me on a V-mail. And did you ever see a V-mail? That's what they used during the war instead of regular letters. Did you find it?
Yep.
All right, can you take it off and do that again? And then let's just do something with Grandma.
Yeah, you know, I wonder, I don't know what you want to tie in with that, but even if you guys up to singing your song for your anniversary? Want to try? So I don't know how we're going to do with Grandma then. Bring another chair in or what?
It's just not enough light. I mean,
Yeah.
It's gonna block. Let's go on the couch.
Okay.
Get out of here.
Time to move, huh?
Set long enough.
Just in a circle.
Watch this. You need a drink again?
Yeah, maybe in bed. I can reach it. On this couch?
Probably sit near the middle.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
He was an MP.
Maybe it might be too low. This is it.
Oh, how? No, it's not. It's fine if it's lower.
Okay.
Okay. Where's your hat?